Okay. Where do I begin? So it's been a while since the last my last Limbus Company video. In that video I checked over and reviewed all of Canto 9. So long it took 2 videos. Sorry about that. But like overall, how I talked about it, I said it was a pretty good Canto. It was a top 3 Canto. It had everything you could ever want for a Limbus Company Canto. Like ever since Canto 4, they've been writing on highs and highs. Well, except for Canto 7, but we don't talk about that. But like yeah, it's just that, man, these guys keep topping themselves. And well, I think that was the thoughts and feelings of most people who read through Canto 9. And I guess what happened this time was I tried to read through Hellscreen and stuff. So hey, since Hellscreen's so short, might as well, like, you know, maybe read through that in Spider's thread and see how it relates to the Canto, see what themes are brought over and stuff like that. And it just made me get through some type of revelations. I don't know. But before I get into that, I will want to go talk about the main event story after Canto 9, the Twinning Threads. And I would say that was a pretty good event story because it adds more character to Ryoshu. It's like a memory lane type situation, giving us more proper relationship between Ryoshu and the Nurse Fathers. I mean, the ones that, like, you know, the ones that she didn't get as much like talking with compared to like Ryan back in Canto 9. She gets good scenes with Matthias. She gets good scenes with Callisto. They fixed up the whole timeline issue with Valencia still being a Smoke War veteran. You know, everything like that. And you know, just smaller stuff of fixing up timeline issues, showing that Ryoshu can't reel Arashiki as much as before because they remove good memories. You know, stuff like that. And apart from that, it was nice seeing Kira back. So sad that she's the only surviving kid, but well, that's what happens. But let's go back to Canto 9. And I did say that I read through Hellscreen. I read through Spider's thread. And well, it made me look back. It made me think that, was Canto 9 really that great? I know what you guys are gonna say, but they're not supposed to 100% adapt the books. I get that. However, most of the theming and most of the knowledge you're supposed to have from these characters are from the books, are from the novels that they're based on. It's not supposed to be 1-to-1. I know it's not 1-to-1, but they're still important enough that you should read and try to see what happens. Because I think my main issue of Canto 9 is what I said back in my video, is a lot of character issues, and a lot of characters felt flat because it felt bloated. Canto 9 is truly a bloated Canto. I think Canto 8 does it a lot better with characters serving a purpose. Canto 9, a lot of characters are just there. And that stems from, I would say, Ryoshu's main issue with her lack of connections that had to be saved with Twining Threads. Like, Ryoshu had small scenes with Arya, and that was fine enough. But like with the Nurse Fathers, we didn't get that much. And especially, I would say a main issue were like the apprentices being bloat. I like the apprentices. I like all their very designs, but they were all pretty much bloat. And because, let's look back at the book. Let's take my first book comparison being Yoshide in the book being, well, this mad artist, just being this person who's so lucky living in the palace with the main emperor, and he was tasked with, you know, painting Hellscreen. And we get to see from outsider's perspective how truly mad and not evil per se, but not learning Yoshide was in this book. How he abused these new apprentices who came in by, like, you know, testing them out and abusing them, so able to get knowledge, get more experience, inspiration, or to, you know, paint the Hellscreen. And that was their role in the book. These apprentices will come in, they will share stories, they would hear about how, oh, here's where Yoshide did to us, here's what Yoshide did to us, stuff like that. And that shows that, yo, this painter's mad. But the issue in Canto 9 is you don't see that because, well, first off, Ryoshu didn't need the apprentices to okay, what I'm trying to say is Yoshide didn't need the apprentices to finish her Hellscreen or, you know, becoming the ultimate blade, stuff like that. So the apprentices' relationship with Ryoshu, they feel flat because half of them didn't really have as much character. Like Kira, we see a bit more from Kira, but like it's like passing glances of what Kira was supposed to be. Like, we know Lucio was made because he wanted to become a textbook to absolutely learn, like a second go at Ryoshu. Sora was guilt tripped into like thinking if she did her job, she would be accepted by Ryan. Ren is still a mysterious person, and Albina and Kelly still, they're like their own thing about more artists compared to what Ryoshu's whole deal was. But there's all those characters felt so separate from what Ryoshu's supposed to be and what the apprentices were supposed to be in the story, which is, well, being fuel for the Arashiki. It didn't feel that way because Ryoshu didn't kill every single apprentice. Ryoshu just, you know, she got triggered by slaying her daughter, which was the hell screen, the whole burning carriage, all that type of stuff. But I think a weakness is having those apprentices just die out on their own right, opposite, outside of, you know, Ryoshu's influence. It sucks a bit. And also, sticking with the whole character stuff, the whole topic of characters not being one-to-one is pretty simple. Because I think in my version of Hellscreen, the main narrator guy is not Yoshide, it's not the daughter, it's this attendant to the Lord Horikawa. This guy, he's supposed to be the biggest D-sucker of the Lord, knowing that the Lord is 100% right, 100% grateful. And we see how he talks down on Yoshide as this mad person because he favors the Lord and he loves the Lord or everything that he does. But like, he doesn't really appear in Canto 9. If you try to say who is this attendant person, well, some people might say it's Hermes, some people might say it's Ryan, some people might say it's Sora. No one knows who this attendant person is. Someone who's supposed to be truly on the side of the Lord. No one even knows who the Lord is. Is Ryan supposed to be the Lord? But people say the Lord is also Yoshida. And is Ryoshu's the daughter, the painter? Arya is just the daughter. She can't be the painter. Who's the Lord? I'm not talking about like the random samurai who came in at the very end of the book, who just sit around and watch the burning carriage. Like important characters such as who is Yoshide, who's supposed to be the Lord, who's supposed to be the attendant, supposed to, you know, side of the Lord, and well, stuff like that. Cause I'm not trying to find a 1v1, but trying to find just simple comparisons so I can, like, you know, write stuff down. Because, well, if Ryan is supposed to be the Lord, he doesn't seem like the Lord because he isn't this prideful person. He isn't this person who, on his own merit, wanted to see the Hell Scream because he's this greedy Lord character. He's a victim as well of the prescripts, and since he doesn't care enough to flee from that, he's stuck in this Hell Screen as well. You could call him Yoshide because he's gave up his daughter to become this thing and the burning carriage stuff. Like, I don't know. It's difficult. Ryoshu is both the daughter and Yoshide. And well, it's just a whole mix-up. I think it's just a whole character issue because a bunch of characters we see, a lot of characters, they fit the game lore of Project Moon, what they're going for. But I think that if you're making all your characters based off books, and everyone knows that the books and whatever they share, their theming, their characters are going to be important to how they're going to translate into the narrative of Project Moon. Well, a lot of characters in the Canto 9 felt game first, then story. I feel that that's what we're gonna see when we get into later portions of Canto, of, like, you know, the later Cantos, of characters being seen, characters from the books, but they are altered so much that they fit only in the Project Moon sense instead of like a character sense. Like, please don't mess up Raymond and Mary from Stranger. Like, come on guys, let's be real. But yeah, missing characters who fit and don't fit at all. Half the Nurse Fathers don't fit anything. They just felt, a lot of those guys felt truly game characters instead of like, here we translating characters or translating themes and stuff like that. The theme is family. I get that theme is family, but but I would still say that looking back, I made a tier list. I put Ren too high. I don't even care about Ren enough because of his whole final scene. That's way too high. I still think Sora, as like what she's supposed to represent, is better than half the apprentices. And a lot of the Nurse Fathers, you know, they suffer from being more game characters and theming related to the game instead of theming related to the book. And it doesn't matter. But yeah, but overall, I still would call Canto 9 a pretty good story. Looking at it, it turns like Project Moon type of story relating to abuse, family trauma, all that. It's a good Project Moon story. However, if you were a big fan of the author and wanted to see how his works would translate, you could find some nice with it. I don't know. I am excited for the future of Project Moon though. Wanting to see how they translate more, but hopefully they don't add fluff. I think that's it. You can add your aura moments, have your cool moments that will expand the lore of the story, but please remember that these characters are based off books. And so, let us book readers enjoy these games as well. I sound like a LARPer. I don't even read the books. I tried to read through Don Quixote, but I felt so lazy and I felt so long. I don't know. Like and subscribe, I guess. Goodbye.